Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Boss Brand Podcast. I'm your host, Satara Brown, and every week I'm taking you behind the scenes of what it really takes to bet on yourself. Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Boss Brand Podcast. So happy to have you back. Another week of living the life of an entrepreneur. And what's been on my heart today, really has been relationships. And I know when someone says relationships, you're thinking boyfriend, girlfriend. But no, today I really want to talk about my family dynamic. I'll give you the backstory, but right now I'll just talk about the most present thing that has happened. So, as you all know, I'm a consultant. I also have the Girl Boss brand, which here we are with the podcast. I also have merch that's available that I sell. And so I've been selling merch for 6 years. Girl Boss brand turned 6 this year. So does SB Consulting Firm. And normally I would go to the city to I don't know what the terminology is, but to source my stuff, right? So I would buy blanks and then I would take my stuff to the city to get embroidered or screen print or whatever the terms are. And it was fine. It was cool. I would go down to the city twice a month. But as of recently, I've been looking for something more local because one, I want to start producing merch in a larger quantity, right? So I sold over $50,000 worth of $35 sweatshirts, but it took me a while to do. Whether it was over a course of a year or 2 years, I stopped counting. But now that I'm in entrepreneurship full time, I want to basically have a store. So I always want to have merch on deck. I always want to have something available. I want to eventually get my own warehouse. But for as of right now, the goal is to always have merch available and constantly be selling merch and always have some type of offering, whether it's for the seasons changing or whatever it is. So with that being said, I'm looking for someone local, and I've been looking for someone local for 3 months, kind of looking, not really looking, trying to get the same price that I was getting in the city, and then here comes my dad. So my dad, probably 6 years ago or 5 years ago, he bought his own equipment to do t-shirts and stuff like that. And if you've been listening to any of these episodes, you know that my dad and I have had a very rocky relationship. My dad, he is 76 years old and he's old, right? He's an old man. He grew up in the 50s. He's very hard-headed. He is not with the times of 2026. So it's hard to give him any direction or any constructive criticism or any feedback. So I connected with someone on Threads and said that the Girl Boss brand / the Balance Suite will sponsor some merch for them for a Pilates cruise that they're doing for their 25th anniversary or something like that. So I connected with my dad and I was like, hey, I need your help on this project. Mind you, he's just thrilled that I am choosing him, right? I didn't tell him about the pay or anything like that, but for me, whenever I ask someone to do something, if money is involved to the point where I can pay someone or I'm, whatever the case is, I am going to pay them. The only difference was when we were starting my nonprofit and I didn't have any funds, I couldn't pay anyone. We were all volunteers. But any other situation, I like to pay people for their time, for their expertise, and just for helping because they could be doing anything in the world. So I didn't tell my dad anything about payment or anything of that sort. And it was an order of 30 shirts and 30 pants. Boy, did it turn into a disaster. Like I said, my dad has had this equipment for over 5 years, but he's hard-headed and he didn't master so when with the words, there's a film over it and I guess you're supposed to use a Cricut to cut it or something. But all I know is that it will say the Girl Boss brand and then there will be lightly faded box around it that's just on the shirt. I can't sell that merch. And in this instance, I wasn't selling it, I was giving it away, but like I can't like consciously give someone a product that I wouldn't wear myself. So that was a very trying situation with my dad. So what ended up happening was he was supposed to have it out by a certain time. He didn't have the order out. It was days later. He told me that he was going to do it. He couldn't do it. He ran out of equipment. There was an issue with the print. It was every single thing that could happen happened. And then it came to the pants. And the pants were a different fabric than the tops. And he just couldn't do it. So we had to send out the order with the tops having the logos, and there's no logos on the bottoms. And it just was what it was. All this man kept saying to me was, I'm sorry. And if you are in business, if you're an entrepreneur, even if heck, you work a 9 to 5, there's no room for sorries. Like, just get the job done. We got to figure out what the issue is, and we have to be able to produce results, period. That's it. Life does not care about sorries. It's either you produce the results or you don't. And I don't have time for a sorry because now I need to move on to something else. So long story short, my sister jumped in. And I was talking to someone about this, and I was like, I really want my dad to be a part of this, but the quality is terrible. Like, he doesn't take any direction, and he's messing up my money. Like, he's literally messing up my money. And I ended up paying him, and he was really grateful. And I paid him at the same exact rate that I would pay any other manufacturer because I'm not doing this for a discount. I just want my family members to be able to use their talent, and I want them to be able to be included in the things that I do, and I want to be able to get money with them. I really don't want to have to outsource things that I know the people near and dear to my heart have the talent to accomplish, and it just didn't work out. And I was talking to someone about it, and they're like, just don't use them again. And that, it just hurts me because like we could literally create generational wealth. If I sold $50,000 worth of $35 sweatshirts, imagine what I can do if I was selling even sweatshirts at $60. Like $35 for a sweatshirt is very inexpensive. So I'm just thinking about the long run and like, the full picture. And it's just, for me, it's just so unfortunate that I can't bring everyone along on this journey that I wanted to. And I've mentioned in a past episode that I've been struggling with relationships. And as you grow as an entrepreneur, as you grow in your career, you have to learn that everybody cannot go. Those people that you've been friends with for 30 plus years, your family members, your siblings, everybody cannot go with you, and that's okay. And a lot of times we become stagnant, or we even pull ourselves down by trying to bring people with us that were never meant to go with us. And that doesn't mean that we have to cut someone off or we no longer need to be their friends, but you need to find a space and a place for everybody in your life, and everything doesn't look the same across the board. And right now, that's just in the space that I'm in, and it sucks and it feels weird. And it's just like, why can't we all just get along? But then when I go and I reach back out to certain people and try to do work with them, like my dad or anybody else that fits into that category, it's just like, why did I even reach out to them? I don't want the headache. I need things done a certain way, and I know that they can't produce it. So why do I keep seeking their assistance? Why do I feel like I owe them to be a part of my success, a part of my journey? You have to learn and really fully understand that some people just won't make it with you. Everybody cannot go. And although you have these fond memories of spending so much time with certain people, or this person, your friend, was your right-hand man during a season in your life, but you have to understand that seasons change. And if you want to go to the next level, you have to do things differently. And I mention this all the time. Like, you have to be willing to take those risks. And that doesn't things don't always look the same. For me, who knows? Like, I really don't know what life will look like for me in 5 months. I know that I don't have no choice but to keep making money and to keep living in my purpose and to keep taking care of myself because I have nothing to fall back on. But I don't know what pockets certain people will be. I don't know what pockets anybody will be. I used to be the one that was like big on friendships, which I still am, big on relationships, but after losing a parent, after like being out in the world by yourself, like your lens changes. So I no longer could be like, this person will never or will always be, nothing is indefinite. And it's a weird, weird, weird space to be. I remember, speaking of my dad, since we're on that topic, he was my hero, everything. And then he got laid off in 2017. I was in law school and my dad was devastated because he allowed his title at work and his job to become his identity. So when he was laid off after 30 plus years, he did not know who he was. And for me, that right there is when everything really clicked. I already didn't understand how people like worked for 30 plus years and then retired and then they're able to like vacation and have fun and live their life. And it's no shade to people that do it. It never made sense to me. So I always knew that like I wasn't going to retire from a job. But after my dad got laid off, and I know every situation is different, but after my dad got laid off, I was like, I can never allow my job to be my identity. Like I am so much more as a human being, as a person, as a sister, as a daughter, as everything else in the book, as a friend, than as an employee of a company. And my dad was heartbroken. Like he went into a serious depression. And I was in law school my first year. I ended up coming back home and he like was just like sleeping all the time. He had no motivation to do anything else. He was an IT tech and he could have like became a consultant. He just had no drive to do anything. And I came back from law school. I ended up going to work and he said he wanted to be a security officer. So I paid for him like to do his class. I gave him some money and he wasted my money. Like he never became a security guard or security officer. And, since then he's just been retired and like he does Amazon sometimes or roadie and like tries to do things to make money. Again, he's 76 years old now. This was like 10 years ago. But with that being said, so through my dad in his depression state after 2017, and a little bit before this as well too, like our relationship began to change. But after his depression state, like I realized that he doesn't have the capacity to be a part of my life in so many ways that I wish that he was. And now that my mom is gone and I only have one parent, I look to him to be what my mom was. And it's just not like that. So that goes back to like your relationships and the pockets that you put people in and how you deal with people is so important. When my mom was sick, my dad, he was in denial. Like, so we're all living in the house together, me, my mom, and my dad. And I'm taking care of my mom. My dad's like, so you quit your job? Like you're just not working? And I'm like, no, like someone needs to take care of mommy 24/7. Like she needs, like, I don't care about a job. And so at the time, my dad didn't know, but I ended up applying for unemployment. So I was getting like $400 a week. So that's like what? $1,600 a month, which is like no money. That was like what I was getting in a week when I was working. And my mom was getting like $1,700 in a month. I don't know if it's Social Security or whatever it is. So we were living on this really, really small income. And it was really just my mom and I, because my dad, everything was just separate. And like we asked him to buy us groceries and stuff, and he just said no, and that just goes to the relationship that him and I had. And that altered our relationship even more because it's like, I don't have a job. You don't even know that I have unemployment. And even so, $400 a week is not a lot of money. But you're denying us food, and you're not buying us any food when my mom is literally dying. And I'm mentioning this because of the way my dad treated me and the way I treated him while my mom was sick. I drank a lot. I was drinking every single day. Thank God I do not drink anymore. I was drinking every single day, and I was tearing it up. Like, when I tell you I was tearing it up, I would take care of my mom all day long. I would drink while I'm taking care of my mom. But to my mom, I was just like on point, doing everything that she needed because I knew that my mom didn't have anyone but me. But when the day was over, all my dad had to do was walk past me and say something. I am tearing it up. Like, I was throwing things, I was destructing things. It was so bad. You know, my dad, he would call my friends and be like, she got to get out of here. She's going to be homeless. She needs to go to a shelter. Get her out of here. I don't know. She does nothing all day long. All she does is drink. She has all these failed businesses. She has all these cars in my garage that can't be driven. All of this crazy stuff. And little did my dad know, you know, he went through his period of depression. Prior to my mom getting sick, I had my own period of depression because I did a bad business deal. And during that time, like, I shut down. So the same way that my dad shut down, in a sense, I shut down, right? I stopped paying my car note. Actually, I missed one payment, and then they told me that I needed to give them the full balance. So now I have a brand new Audi outside my house that, you know, was like my pride and joy. It was like my dream car, and it's about to get repossessed. He's talking about this, and he doesn't even know the situation, but he's talking about how I got all these cars outside his house. And, you know, all of this mess is going on while my mom is dying. So now fast forward, you know, me and my dad were rekindling our relationship and back to him doing my shirts. So a couple of weeks ago, he's doing the shirts for me. And I'm going to save the full story for the next episode. But when I tell you that I am so covered by God, I always say I am God's favorite child. I got a letter in the mail saying that my balance for my Audi was $0. And like, this just happened like a couple weeks ago. And I wasn't hiding the car. It's just like, you can't tell me that I have to give you $30,000 for a car because I don't have that. And then in the same token, like, either you're going to repossess the car or you're going to allow me to make payments. Not both. Because if you repossess the car, I'm not paying you. I'm just not paying you. And that's going to be on my credit. So I'm like, I'm never going to buy a house. So in the midst of my dad doing all this stuff, I get a letter in the mail saying that my balance is $0. They sent me the title and everything. So now it's go time for me. Like, I just ran off on the plug. Like, I am so grateful. So I sold the car. So now I sell the car, and that's a whole story in itself, and I'll get to that. But now I got a bunch of money. And to me, it was like, you know, a couple dollars, but like, now my dad is counting my pockets, right? So like, my dad, he thinks that, like, it's kind of like he thinks I owe him, and he's telling my sister that I'm buying all this stuff. And it's like, bro, our relationship is not like that. You are not my mom. Get out my pockets. So all of this has happened like literally in the last 2 weeks. So when I'm thinking about relationships, now I'm like, I don't want no friends. I don't need no family members. I already don't got a mom. Like, I am so done. Like, I'm not even I don't even want to get married anymore. I don't want a man. I'm going to have a baby by myself. And like, of course, I'm going extreme, but this is literally what's going on in my mind. So if you are going through anything with relationships, just know that it's not easy and it looks different for every single body. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more on the next episode of the Girl Boss Brand podcast. So I'll see you next week.